Welcome back to GBGuns. Walther has released not one but two new guns. This is one of them, the shorter. We'll show you the big one in another video. Coming up next on GBGuns. So not long ago, Walther announced a teaser that something was coming in February of 2021. And as you know, we here at GBGuns are big Walther fans, so we've got our hands on one. I actually got to shoot this at a writer event a few months back. Pretty excited to show you the new PDP. PDP, as in Personal Defense Pistol, is a whole new line for Walther. Starting off with this 4-inch and the 4.5-inch. We'll get into the gun in a bit. Want to go over the rest of what comes in the package. You get a spare mag with a loader. Witness windows are on the back, which is where I like them to be. Makes them really easy to see, especially if you're running a course or competition or something and you want to do a quick check. You eject, the mag comes out, and you can quickly look at the back as if it's a tire gauge, pop it back in, and keep going. Same thing with check-in mags that are on your belt. Very easy with windows on the back. So 2 mags total, a mag loader, and different back straps. As far as how these back straps fit and change the grip of things, you will get my opinion as well as Tia's. So 2 different hand sizes showing you that in the shooting impressions. We also have a tool, 2 tools, a bag, up top underneath the foam, and this is a nice hard case with rings for running a lock through it. Is the manual. It excites me when it's a whole new pistol line because that forces a new manual, and as you know, I like to judge manuals. So we've got a decent size here. There's our added literature. Color photos, check that out. Stepped things up a bit. And I flipped through this a bit before, and something that I gotta point out just because I think it's oh so German. If I can find it. Right there. Adjusting the pistol to its user. So German, because the pistol's fine. If you need to make adjustments, obviously it's because of you, not the gun itself. But anyways, the manual is very clear and has plenty of quality color photos with arrows showing you what they're talking about, so that if this is your first pistol, you should find guidance pretty clear. Look at that, nice enhanced photos. Very sharp, something that I gotta say, a lot of companies aren't spending the time on, and that kind of disappoints me because we have a lot of new gun owners out there, and even people who don't admit to being new gun owners but are first time with a pistol, things like that, need a little bit of guidance, so it's nice the manual provides that. Let's get this case out of the way and take a look at the PDP 4-inch. And here she is in all of her beauty. PDP, Personal Defense Pistol, is replacing, as I understand it, the PPQ line, which has been around for a long time. This is the PPQ Q4 TAC, which had the threaded barrel and was optics ready. And you might notice the PDPs are optics ready. More on that in a bit and how the mounting solutions and things are going to come about for that. You can see that they've changed the grip style. This grip texture and shape is much more akin to what we found on the steel frames. As far as the shape there, and the feel in the hand is a lot like the steel frame in that we've got a lot of things nicely radiused and relieved, and it's a very grabbing grip. See if I can get the camera to show you some detail on that. It's actually a pyramid inside of a pentagon. There you go. And it applies nice traction in all directions. So when you have your hand glued to the gun is glued to you. Feels really good. Before I get too lost in those things, let's stick with our format and we'll do our proverbial walk around the gun, talk about some features, fit and finish that way. So as always, we are going to start at the front and show clear. Nice positive magazine ejection there. Just kicks it out well. That's what I appreciate. And the chamber is clear. YouTube sensors. For those of you who did not read the pre-roll, this is an unloaded firearm. I am going to be showing its mechanical properties. I am not modifying the firearm, nor am I assembling a firearm, nor am I selling this firearm. Alright, using this camera that is not my eyeball, it's in front of me, so I'm not pointing this at my face. Here's the muzzle. We see we do have some slide to frame play up front. In fact, it feels kind of loose here. Interestingly enough, it's not common on Walthers, but I have faith that they've figured out a way to compensate for that while actually shooting. Plenty of rail space underneath here. We got a nice kind of bowl cut on the front to pinch there, but what really grabs you for press checks are these slide serrations. These are super serrations, they're calling them. Not super as in like superhero, but super as in external. The serrations are actually wider than the body of the slide, which makes grabbing them very, very easy. You can see we've got that nice complex, I'm going to zoom in here a bit, nice complex serrations on the front of the trigger guard for those that like that finger forward grip. If not, just ignore it. Gets narrower here, which kind of forces your hand to slip off, and it also makes for good scooping to pull for racking from the rear for those ones. So it's a nice touch there. The trigger, this is their PDT trigger, Performance Duty Trigger. Walther's always been known for triggers. I first fell in love with the P99's trigger. PPQ is pretty darn good. I gotta say, I don't believe this is just marketing hype. This is a new trigger. This feels even better than the PPQ. Watch this. We come back to a wall, break. Reset is a little bit longer than it used to be to the wall, break. There's no drag through. Maybe the reset's just as short. Spectacular trigger, very predictable, allows you to get on target while presenting, and then when you're ready, go. Very nice trigger. We've got a little bit of relief applied here, raised up and flattened, so you don't get any of that, well, block knuckle, I'll say, rubbing against there. It's nicely radiused and smooth to be comfortable. The magazine release, of course, is reversible, and the slide stop and releases on both sides. Does it work? It locked it back, and it releases. Good job, Walther. Too many companies put a lever over here, and there's just not enough strength in the middle connecting across to the other side, because this is where your actual catch happens. And when you apply force, you end up torquing that bar instead of dropping the slide. No issues here whatsoever. Here's some of that texture. This little hook at the bottom, they say, is intended to allow pinky pressure in your grip to make finding red dots easier. Not sure yet if we're going to run this with the iron sights as included, to be fair to the gun, purely the gun, or if we're going to run this with the red dot in our review. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you'd like to see in the shooting impressions, red dot or not. Looking underneath, we have this nice heel protection, which I appreciate. It makes it easy for hurried mag reloads. You slam the mag back there and shove forward. And also note that even though this is a 15+1 round gun, same size as the Glock 19, thanks to this hook and enlargement down here, I can do this and not pinch my finger, which is what used to happen all the time for me with the Glock 19, and it actually pushed me into guns that were bigger and harder to conceal because I just hated pinching my finger with that thing every time. We have some kind of finger, let's call it palm filling grooves here. They're not for your finger, obviously, but they fit between the fingers to give you a nice full solid grip. Feels very good. Little bit of overhang there to help protect the back of the hand from the slide. Sits nice and flush. Coming around the back, here's our 3-dot sight picture. It looks a little strange with those dots being so narrow there, but it's a very clean sight picture. And part of why these sights look different is because they are completely adjustable out of the box. So if you want to dial this to whatever ammunition you're using, you can do that. As far as the plates, the way that's going to work is they have plates for almost all of the Well, all of the common footprints, those of you who have played with red dots have learned probably the hard way that there's 3, maybe 4 major styles of mounting holes on those optics. However, nobody has standardized anything yet, and so it's a pain in the butt. And in previous guns, like with the steel frame, Walther sent you 3 plates, and then you matched what you had to fit it. Doing that, though, required making extra plates, which cost Walther money, increase the cost of the gun, and then you buy it and you end up having these plates that you don't need. The way the PDP is going to work is you're essentially going to get a voucher that you send in for the plate of your choice. That way you're not spending any more on the gun than the gun needs to cost, and you're getting just the plate that applies to you. I believe the MSRP is aimed to be $650 on this particular gun, which compared to many other European-made guns is a very fair price. Coming around the right side, see, as I mentioned before, we got a reversible mag release. We have left-hand controls and right-handed controls built into the gun. Man, that trigger is just a joy. So deliberate pull right through, no hesitation, or stageable at the wall if you want, and then brake. Nice trigger. The barrel also has a stepped chamber. What that is aside from a, well, how can I best clarify this? So you have 2 sizings. Let me grab a round, using our nozzler match as demo, as always, because it is the most consistent ammunition we have ever tested or measured. So when the round fits in the chamber, the brass is a known size, right? The brass has to always be 19 millimeters long if it's there. The projectiles, however, can be very greatly in their size and shape. Of course, they have an ideal diameter, but where that diameter hits, where it actually begins on that particular projectile, is different from bullet to bullet. Not from the same make, but from different styles. Even hollow points from different manufacturers all look differently. We've shown you plenty of pictures about this and explained this on our Instasham. It's part of why we do our What's for Dinner test and had to trademark our What's for Dinner test in our shooting impression videos. So what Walther has done is step to the chamber. So there's a little step, the brass fits, and another step that's the actual diameter of the bullet. And that results in increased pressure, a cleaner running gun because you're not getting as much blow-by of combustion that's still behind the bullet. Bullet hasn't left the barrel yet, and the chamber's still there, kind of blowing back around, filling up the gun. Increased pressure, which makes increased velocity, which means you actually get a harder hitting round out of a Walther than you would out of, say, a competitor's gun. Pretty cool feature. If you'd like, we can include testing of that to see what kind of velocity differences we get. This being 2021, which followed 2020. Ammo is a bit tight, but in the name of science and helping you determine if these are advertising features or actual features of a gun, we'll consider testing it for you. So next, let's field strip the thing and take a look inside the gun. Field stripping the PDP is much like most other striker-fired guns, even if this trigger feels about as good as a hammer-fired gun. We're going to check clear, release trigger, and pull down on this takedown section on both sides. Bring the slide back a hair, and then it comes forward and off. So looking in the frame, we see most things look rather PPQ-ish, but this spring is copper colored, which I find kind of interesting. Nice big block here. The actual steel reinforcement is inside of it, since that's the only part that really needs to be that strong. A little bit of help with feeding thanks to that ramp there. Front rail and rear rail are about average size for what you'd expect in models like these. Polymer guide rod with a flat wire spring captured, and our barrel pops out by, do that once more, zoom back a little bit for anyone who's watching this for a first time. Field strip, pop the barrel down, bring it forward to loosen it up, and out the back. Our slide is beautifully clean inside. Wonderful machining, as one would expect from a new tool on a German machine. and we've had extra space hollowed out there. Our barrel, we'll check for chamber fit using that same nozzler match. Those not familiar with this, it dropped right in. Chamber support is how much of the chamber wraps around the round. And that's important in case you're going to be running reloads, which in 2021 a lot of people might be doing, or high pressured rounds. Because any unsupported brass, which it looks like everything is supported here, camera focus, I have to zoom back a little bit to give you a clearer shot, is fully supported. That's important. Like I said, if you're running reloads or higher pressured brass, or some of the stuff that's being cranked out at 1,000,000 rounds a minute trying to meet demand in 2021, because if you have a case rupture or a case failure, those unsupported chambers blow out the brass through the bottom here, because the brass is easier to blow out than it is to get the bullet moving sometimes. And that sends that combustion force down into the mag wall of the gun, sometimes breaking the frame, oftentimes blowing out the magazine, and startling the heck out of the shooter, possibly destroying the gun. So, I am an advocate for fully supported chambers. Nice to see that Walther went with one. Reassembly, we pop that barrel back in and the spring back where it belonged. Gonna line it up on here and pull it back. It'll automatically relock, and we check for functions. There we go. As far as trigger weight, I don't bother measuring those because I think trigger feel is more important. So I try not to put any attention on it unless it's absurdly light or absurdly heavy. This one, however, feels, I think, appropriate for a carry gun. That first stage, if you will, is light but provides some resistance. You have a definitive wall and it breaks. Quick reset, and it's easy enough to pull right through without having to pause or hitting that wall being so stiff that it causes a dipping of the gun. See, gun stayed level there. So, pretty excited about this. This, like I said, is going to be replacing the PPQ line. I like the ergonomics and the feel of this better, and those of us who have handled the steel frames commented that the grip on the steel frame felt nicer, or a lot of people liked the omission of finger grooves on the front here versus the PPQ, which had it along the front. So that is gone now, and we've got a very pronounced shape that fits really well in the hand, as well as this this traction setup is pretty nice. It if you squeeze real hard, it might feel a little abrasive, but if you're just rubbing your hand over it, it's not abrasive. And I bring that up because there have been new textures come out in the past that everyone got excited about them being super sticky, and then as soon as you put it in a holster, it hurt or it shredded your clothes. I don't think that's going to happen with these. Time will tell. I'll have to find a holster for it. But as a personal defense pistol, 4 inches is the shortest barrel length that I go with, mostly because generally your ammunition is going to perform better at higher velocity unless you find some of that specialty stuff that really narrows your options down but is meant for smaller guns. So 4 inches and longer, and Walther came out with this 4-inch and the 4.5 inch. We'll show you in another video with a slightly different capacity as well. So good duty size, carry size gun. Magazine compatibility does exist. Here's my steel frame 4-inch. Pop that mag out. Not sure if this base plate's going to work. Oh, it does. And it locks back and it kicks out. So those of you who have these magazines don't have to worry about finding a bunch of new mags. It's one of the big frustrations when a new line comes out and you're a fan of a particular maker, is you feel abandoned / forced to buy a whole bunch more magazines. Not the case with Walther. Pretty excited about this. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I know a lot of you were expecting it to be a 365 Hellcat competitor. I kind of thought it would be too. However, since Walther is one of those companies that takes defense and military contract and law enforcement type duty guns very seriously, it's not a surprise to me that they came out with a newer generation of that first, especially since Walther is also one of those companies that pays attention to things like terminal ballistics and how a gun will actually perform. They want to make sure that if you're carrying a gun, it's going to run well, it's going to help your ammunition do what it's supposed to, and be an effective fight stopper. That's the PDP 4-inch. Look for our shooting impressions video to come out not too long after you see this one. We'll do our trademark What's for Dinner test, testing a wide variety of loads, both absurdly light and absurdly heavy, hollow points, full metal jackets, steel frame, aluminum cased, all that kind of stuff, to see how the gun runs with it, and give you the impressions of two shooters, myself and Miss Tia, of different backgrounds, experience, hand size, and taste as far as what we think about this gun on the range. Thanks for watching.